Okay, welcome back everybody. It's 1:30 and we will now start our E911 board meeting. And with us today we have the City of Cortez and the dispatch director, is that? Supervisor? Sorry, didn't think quite. You guys want to come on up? Grab a mic. We have our CFO of the city manager, and IT. I don't know your manager. Okay, sorry guys. I apologize for you. We have three things on our agenda, and the first one is going to be the discussion on the Revcore. And when we left this last time is you guys were going to get with your city attorney to see where we were at with that Revcore system. Chief Knuckles, go ahead and you can come on up to the table also.
We can get you a microphone.
We'll even get you another mic. But there are a bunch around the corner.
Commissioner Candelaria, Drew Sanders here, City of Cortez, and Commission. So yes, we did talk to our city attorney, and we've actually talked to the county attorney. We've tried to connect those two. We understand that there's a possibility that another entity might want to purchase that from us, so it would end this. But our suggestion is that either way, we need to have our attorneys, if they don't purchase that, deal with that, and we're hoping somewhat separately from what our proceedings are now. Whether or not that's sold, disposed of, or otherwise dealt with by the legal process, we still need to continue on and get that other piece of replacement equipment in action.
Okay. Did you guys have, I mean,
So the only conversation that I've had with anybody is I was informally introduced to the city attorney yesterday, and he said that he was in the process of reviewing this stuff. That's all I know. No more, no less. Yeah.
okay. So has Revcore since even attempted to reach out to any of you guys, or
Not to me,
still nothing?
other than just trouble tickets.
So they're still responding to our trouble tickets.
So, yeah.
And the last email that I got from one of the salesmen was that they were interested in working with Motorola's development in trying to figure out why their system isn't recording correctly. The problem with Revcore, I think, after the fact, you know, when we purchased it, I think Jim, of the three members of the authority board, Mr. Candelaria was the one that indicated, you know, just because you're getting the cheapest system doesn't mean you're going to like it. That system cost us $21,000 plus I think it's $3,000 to $5,000 a year for maintenance on it. So it's not a robust system. And right now I have 15 radio channels, digital radio channels. So that's the 800 megahertz channels that I need to be recording, and I can only record 5. So we're missing out on 10 channels that I should be recording. The fire departments, when they're looking at going to tactical channels, and if we want those tactical channels to be recorded so that they can go back and review, we're going to need a more robust system. You know, when we're talking about just those 5 channels and the phone lines, that system works pretty well. The QA, the quality assurance that they sold me on at the beginning, it doesn't work like they said, and I've went back to them several times, and one of the tech people told me that we were the only agency trying to use the QA. There's no other agency out there that is currently using their QA system. I wasn't told that during the purchase. I mean, so there's items like that, but when it comes right down to it, it's not the robust system that we need for our center. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think our concern last time was if we let Revcore off the hook because they responded to the RFP and they were supposed to be able to produce what they said they would produce, and they obviously are not producing that. So they are outside of what they said that they would do. So I guess that's why we wanted the attorneys involved in it to see, hey, where are we going with this? What are we going to do with this? And I guess that's kind of really where
Yeah,
we
and
stand.
I would agree, Commissioner, that that is the case, and we need to do that. And the county attorney is actually right, you know, in trying to make that introduction and get that piece moving. I'm not exactly clear why it's taking so much longer than we hoped, but yes, our city attorney is trying to figure out what was done before. But the fact remains, even if that was an operational piece, even if that whole problem was off the table, we still need a better piece of equipment to meet our needs.
Right.
So that's why we're trying to, even though that's important, and yes, we want to follow through with that, that's why we're trying to somewhat separate that from the new request.
Right, the logger system that you've requested now.
So where I'm unclear, was the RFP that was initially put out not sufficient? Or was the RFP that was put out correct and they just aren't performing up to it? I mean, did we put out a bad RFP?
Yes, we put out an RFP and they haven't performed up to the RFP.
So if they would have performed up to the RFP, then would the system be functional and robust enough for our needs?
Yes.
And therein lies my point. If Revcore responded and indicated that they were able to provide a robust enough system, then they should be held to that. We shouldn't have to go buy a more robust system because Revcore's indicated that they're robust enough.
They don't have the capabilities or the technology to be able to work with Motorola's recording system for it to work the way that it's supposed to with Motorola and the AIS radio system. They don't have it. And I've put them all the way to the state engineers up in Denver with Motorola to try to get them to have it work. It won't record what we need it to record. It won't do it.
Well,
And we've been working with them on this for over a year. So we have done our due diligence from start to finish with Revcore at this point. And to the point of in the RFP that's in the packet, that's the most recent RFP that's been out and has already been answered by the company that has the system that's in this quote that we need for it to do its job. With them not performing up to the RFP standards and with all the tickets that we have in place, I passed all that, and I passed a bunch of other information that Lori had to our city attorney. And I mean, as far as what I think, I'm not an attorney, but what I think you would need for a case is more than sufficient in all of those case files that we already have open that they've never been able to close, including the state engineer telling Revcore that their system will not work with Motorola, and that's in an email, in a ticket.
Here's where I'm at. I think that my advice to this board would be, before you move forward with buying a new system, we need to get a plan from the city attorney as to what they're gonna do about this. We can't just have it hanging.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that, but I think what you guys are saying is we're into a situation right now is that we need to separate the two issues, although they're one issue, somehow separate them so that we can move forward with a logger system that will physically work, that's compatible
And it will be,
with
with all the new equipment and the old.
So here's the potential problem we run into with that, though. We separate the two systems. We buy a new system. The city attorney moves forward with Revcore, and they come back and they say, oh yeah, we could perform up to the RFP. Now we've got no claim against Revcore, and we've got a new system. So now we've got two systems. We've shelled out all this money for a new system, and we still don't have a sense from Revcore as to what happened. We still haven't heard exactly what happened. I mean, I understand the system's not performing up to its capabilities, but that's where we could end up, and that's my fear here.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that. But now I'm gonna talk to you on the other side of it, because while we're bantering back and forth with attorneys, and nothing against attorneys, but we're gonna have a system that doesn't function, so the guys out in the field that need the systems to function and to work properly, we're gonna handcuff, and that's what I don't like. That's my concern, because the guys that are having to deal with it in the field every day are now gonna be the ones that are handcuffed, and that's my concern. Because legal issues can take a very long period of time, and if we continue to banter back and forth on this, then we could be a year down the road. We could be 2 years down the road, and we still haven't made a decision, and we're still handcuffing everybody. So I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying, because if we do move forward and we let them off the hook, we basically have let them off the hook, and we lose the entire dollar value to that, unless maybe by chance you're able to sell it somewhere else. But there again, that's a roll of the dice. We don't know if that is or isn't a possibility. So that's why I would like to separate it also, because I understand everything that you're saying, Ian, and I appreciate it, but what am I doing to the guys out in the field? And that then have to work with it, to prosecute it, or to move forward with anything else. That's my concern.
Well, and I simply don't have the technical expertise to know exactly how things are going in the field. I mean, obviously, we've lived with this system now for a period of time, and I'm not a technician. I'm not in the field, so I don't know.
2 years, 3 years?
November 19th of 2020.
2 years. And we've been having trouble with it for a year, at least a year.
More than a year, year and a half. We've been working with them, trying to get it to work the way that we want it to, or it needs to.
So I 100% understand what you're saying, and that I would like to reach out and grab them and say, give us our money back and let us go on down the road, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So that's my concern, and I'll let you two guys vocalize what you need to. I just...
To go into this area, I don't want to, but there's rumors out on the street that you've already bought or ordered this equipment, this Eventide and these consulates. Not consulates,
That's inaccurate,
but
Commissioner.
Vesta Phone System.
Yeah, that is inaccurate.
Okay. That dispels that rumor. From my personal standpoint of view, I would like to become more involved in the dispatch center and the functionings of what's going on. I'd like to see profit and loss statement of your enterprise system. I'd like to see an income and expense balance sheet, depreciation schedule, and a full users list.
We can absolutely provide that, fairly quickly. We've provided them in the past. But just to be clear, this is not an enterprise fund.
I thought it was being
Nope,
operated.
it's a program of the police department.
Okay. Okay. That's all the questions I have right now. Gerald, do you have anything?
I can understand where Ian's coming from exactly, because I guarantee you what, if you let them off the hook and we put a different system in there, you just let them go from what's going on there. I guess how serious of this being a problem as far as your dispatch operation, Lori, is that something that you think needs to be done within the next month, or What's the timeline? I mean, how serious of a problem do you think this is actually causing with your operation? I wanna hear from you. I don't hear what they
So-
think, I wanna hear from you.
So I will say that their technical support is lacking. Takes a while to get technical support on that. As far as making recordings, I can do that okay, but the Q&A, which is what I'm most interested in, it's pretty much worthless. And that's what honestly sold me on the system. And I should have known because they weren't charging extra for that module. It was just included with the recorder. But Q&A is so important to, I have something like 8 brand new dispatchers. And for me to train them properly, I need to be able to do that Q&A quickly, get it out to them so that they know what mistakes they're making on calls so that they have the opportunity to correct them. So as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty critical, not only for that, but for the channels we're not recording. As a matter of fact, I had to, one of our tactical channels, I had to quit recording it in order to start recording the Mancus Marshal's office. So I had to drop off the TAC channel to record them. So I only have 5 critical channels that are being recorded when there's 15 that we really should be recording.
And it's been that way ever since you started this system?
Ever since we went to the new the radio consoles. So the MCC 7500s that we installed last
January. Yep. January of '21.
And I've been sending ticket in after ticket in saying, this is not acceptable. And that's when they started putting the fingers back and forth with Motorola. Well, it's Motorola's fault. No, because the bid clearly stated that we would be switching within 2 years to the MCC 7500 system. And they said they could handle that, but they can't.
Anything else?
Just to throw one more thing out. I mean, it sounds like we've got a lot of technical questions. I mean, obviously this system, it sounds like hasn't functioned from the get-go. And so, one thing this board might want to look at is getting some kind of technical review of the new system so we don't end up in the same place we are now with this system. I mean, obviously what we ended up with is not functioning. And now we're going to go out and get a new thing. How do we know that's going to function? How do we know we're not going to be sitting here in a year going through this same conversation?
So, Lori, who reviewed that system prior 2020 or 19 or whenever we purchased
The
that?
Revcore system,
Mhm.
shit. But, so if we were to go after, to get the new system, the Eventide, that is, the people that won that bid are also the people that work on our radios. So they would not put, they're tied to the radios as well as that recorder. So I don't think we'll have, I feel certain we won't have the same issues. Their tech support is local, where Revcore, we've never actually looked in their eyes. They do everything either by the internet. All of my tickets that I turn in have to be done by email. They don't even have a phone, like a 800 phone number that you can call in for. So it's been a real struggle.
So, in reviewing it, Shay, then how long would it basically take you to review the proposal?
The
We-
Revcord,
Yeah,
when that was originally put out, the RFP was put out by the county. I reviewed the RFP, okayed it. And then when the answers came back to the RFP, Lori and, who was the manager at the time, Lori? Was it Shaq? Lori and Shaq picked their three, and then I gave it to them in order. And the first one, my pick, my number one recommendation when I did that was the Eventide system. My number two was the Revcord. And I said in that order. So if you guys pick, but I recommend the Eventide system. I don't recommend the Revcord system, but if that's the one you guys want, then.
so.
And I was kept out of that process after that.
Was it a low bid sort of
Yes.
decision?
It was
Oh, yeah.
substantially lower, I do remember
It was
that,
$35,000.
yeah, substantially.
Was it 21
Yeah,
21.
21 originally.
originally, but the creep is caught up.
Because it was, like you said, $25,000 with the, rounded up.
Not to mention all the time and troubleshooting of techs. Myself, a couple of the guys over there, so yes.
So, would it be, has Jim McLean looked at this also, by chance? The new proposal?
No,
We've got a communications guy, Eric Simmons. Jim, you awake? Okay.
Morning.
Does Eric Simmons have the capability to review this too?
Yes, he does, if you want that to happen. He's running the repeater to Durango to get it fixed and get it back in tonight. But he said he'd be more than willing to review anything the board wants him to review.
I can send Eric all that information.
Okay.
He has it?
I can send it to him.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, him and I are in communication over other stuff already, so,
And this is the one that's available right now, right?
yes.
This is still somewhere in the United States, it's local
Yeah.
that we can have within the 10 days, I think you said? Or
Yeah,
Yeah, less than,
quickly,
yes, quickly.
within a month, I guess.
less than a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, less than a year. Everything else we look at is a year, but relatively quickly.
Could you also send all that information, just CC the board on that?
What information?
The information you're gonna send to Mr. Simmons?
You actually have it in the packet that Chief forwarded to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we
You have the
it.
reply,
Okay.
and in that reply is the RFP that I sent
Great.
out.
Thank you.
And that's what you sent to us, Vern, that 71-page document?
yes, it
Okay.
has the RFP.
Yeah, okay.
And just another point about that system, that's designed by Motorola and sold by Eventide. So it's a Motorola system attaching to a Motorola system. They're designed to work together from go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, we still have two separate issues. One, I don't want to let Revcore off I don't want to
Yeah.
do that, but I can separate that in my mind and knowing that if we do purchase another system, that we take the possibility or the potential of losing all strength with being able to do anything with Revcore. I understand that. So, do you want to wait a
Yeah,
week?
I'd like to wait a week till we get Eric Simmons to review it on our side and make a decision then on buying Eventide. But we're gonna have to discuss here in a minute affordability, how we're gonna pay for this. Gerald?
Do you think a week's enough time, Ian, for you to get with the city attorney?
I don't know what the city attorney's timeline is. I mean, it sounded to me like he hadn't really delved real deeply into this stuff yet for the Revcord stuff. And so, that's really more a question for the city attorney. But I can certainly communicate with him this week. I think it's gonna take probably more than a week. What would be really wonderful would be for him to come in and give us a sense of where he thinks the city stands with Revcore. Whether there's a sense from Revcore that they can make this system work, whether he thinks that there's liability if they can't, and what the plan would be moving forward. I'm happy to reach out to him. Again, my position has been, in some sense, this system's in the name of the city. And I mean, the previous city attorney was communicating with Revcore. They've got all the documentation. I mean, that's not stuff that I don't even know that I have everything. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But it may take the city attorney a couple of weeks. There's a lot of documentation there to go through.
So here's where I'm at. Here's what I think. Again, trying to separate this into two different issues. One is keeping Revcore's holding their feet to the fire. I'm 100% on board with that, whatever time it takes. And I'm also willing to roll the dice that if we do go out and get something else, another logger, that we might potentially let them off the hook. I understand that. However,
There's one more angle to it too. The attorney could reach out to Revcore and say, hey, you guys said you were going to perform, and now you're not performing. And maybe Revcore steps up and performs. I mean, sometimes getting a letter from an attorney is a great motivator.
But it sounds like they can't perform, correct? They
Well-
cannot. So what they answered in the RFP, they basically cannot perform to what was requested.
No, sir. There's a portion in there that asks if they are going to be compatible with the MC 7500 upgrades in the near future. They said yes, they could work with the upgrades. By that we meant the AIS licensing, which is a piece of software that allows the two systems to communicate over a network, and that their Revcore is not able to work with that piece of software. They cannot make it work. And they've went as far as, and we have it all documented in the tickets back and forth with Revcore, them not being able to make it work, and them trying to put it on the state engineer, and them trying to put it on Motorola, and Motorola's state engineer coming back and saying, you guys are incorrect. So, I mean, it's all the way, I mean, I took it as far as I could, Jim.
So that's what I see as a legal issue of dealing with the RFP and what they can or cannot do. However, we're working with the system now that's not compatible with what we have that's working the console, or with all 15 potential channels that have to be recorded.
Right.
So we've got a flat tire on a car, and we can either change it or we can continue to drive on a flat tire and go after the manufacturer to fix the flat
That they can't fix.
that they can't fix. So I'm willing to wait a week to let Eric review that, and Jim, and if it's compatible and everything works. I don't understand the IT language. I have to depend on other people. Sorry, it's not my world.
Fine.
But I could wait a week on that, but I really see it as two different issues.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you're saying, and I really do, but I don't want to, if we have a logger that's not working at all, and it's not going to be compatible, and is never going to work, we don't have anything. It doesn't matter if we win or not. Okay? All right, so we'll have another discussion next week. Travis, make sure you put that on our agenda for the E911 board, because we'll have to continue that after we have the conclusion of Mr. Spratland. Unless for some reason they can't get that reviewed, then you'll have to let us know immediately. Okay?
How busy is he this week? As soon as he gets that repeater back up, he'll be ready.
All right, next thing is the discussion as it relates to the phone system, the Vesta Phone System. Anything else?
No, I think the past meetings, we've tied the phone system to the recording system, and I want to clarify that they're completely two different systems, and then reiterate the predicament we're in with our current phone system, and what would happen if that system goes down.
And the phone system was as far as cost, that was the big one, and then that was the 10 or 11 months out, right? And even if we were lucky and ordered it today, it would be,
We're into in the previous meetings, I was saying August because of the 4 or 5 weeks that we've delayed. Now we're into September, October.
so we're a year away,
Yeah.
at best.
And another thing I'd like to clarify is I'm in communications with those guys with Lumen. They call me once or twice a week. Their new CEO starts, I think, in 2 weeks, and they may change the policy of they won't ask for payment until the system is operational ready. So the longer we drag that out too is another potential loss that we'll lose if that decision is not made sooner than later. Just so you guys are aware.
Okay. So let's kind of put that on pause for a minute. Let's go down to the discussion that you have next on the E911 fees as it relates to the increase. Right now we have $1.40, which is what we charge, and your proposal is $1.97, which is what we can go up to without any movement outside. It's within our authority to move that to the 197. As I look at these proposals and add it up, just what you sent to us, Chief, was $741, almost $742,000. With the Vesta, with the logger, and all of the other stuff, 2 of the other items that we already approved last time we met. So let's discuss the rate, because we're not going to be able to keep up with this at $1.40 if this stuff continues to rise like this. So go ahead.
No, and that's exactly my point. As we get into this new equipment and we start replacing equipment, I think after this year or 23 with the new phone system and everything, I think we're pretty good for major replacements for the next probably 5, maybe 6 years. However, all this new equipment comes with annual service agreements and everything, and that is continuously kind of chips away at our fund balance. So as we bring on new equipment with new service agreements and things like that, that fund balance stays smaller, every year. And then, if an emergency, something happened and we needed to dip into that, I think we would be pretty thin. Based on the cost of everything rising, it's costing more to do business, and I think that would be my argument for raising the surcharge to $1.97.
Okay. Kelly, you want to add anything? You don't have to. I'm just trying to give everybody the opportunity.
Well, I think Travis would also agree that anytime you have the opportunity to increase your revenue, it's always a good idea. Everything is just going to be more expensive as we move forward. We've seen rate of inflation this year at, I think, record rates. Who knows if that's going to continue for a longer period of time, or if that is going to drop off in the next year. But it just makes sense if you have the opportunity to increase your revenue. That's only going to help your overall operations in the long run.
And just so the board's aware, and maybe you are, I reached out to PUC, was it a couple weeks ago, Lori, that we talked? And we have to notify Telecom by December 3rd they have 90 days to come into compliance. So our first quarter, we're not gonna see the $1.97.
So it'd be Q2 before we even are able
Roughly,
to
yeah.
move it on to the bills, basically.
You have to send out registered letters to all the phone companies once it's approved by PUC. Then you have to go down that road too.
That's a lot of registered letters.
It is.
So April of '23, before it's even started to be recorded to come to us, which,
I would look more at June, probably June before it actually starts coming in.
okay. So Fader provided us, gentlemen, I think you guys all have a copy of this. Or it's up here anyway. It moves it from the $140 to the 197, basically $200,000 annually. Which, when we look at what is on here, that doesn't leave us much of a reserve at all if anything happens. If we lose a console, I mean, if there's anything goes out at all, we don't have, without raising it, staying at the 450,000 at the $1.40, we don't have any money to function with. If something happens, hopefully nothing happens, but
Well, just by looking at these numbers, if we
Questions?
raise it and we buy this equipment, it's still, and we maintain a healthy fund balance, we're still walking a fine line that if something does drop, it's gonna be tough.
well, remember the Vesta, if what you're saying is correct and we don't have to pay for it until it gets here, it's functioning, we're a year out.
We've got time to accumulate.
So
some
we've
funds.
got
That's
time,
correct. Yes,
6 months, basically,
roughly 6 to 9 months to accumulate.
to accumulate that additional.
And then to your point on the monies, as far as something bad happening, as long as we keep that stuff within a 5 to 6 year warranty time, any of that hardware is on the company, not on you, or not on us.
But there's other things in the system that can go bad. I mean, we've got towers, we've got repeaters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a flow chart.
Not that towers go bad, but, you know, somebody may want to tax us on towers, which I've already done.
Commissioner Copenhaver?
I don't know, but I don't wanna buy another system that doesn't work. Whatever we do, I wanna make sure this one's right.
Right, and that's why we're gonna take the week to make sure that it's compatible, 100% compatible with everything that works before we approve that. However, now this is a discussion of the rate.
I guess I don't have any problem as far as the increase goes. Everything's going up like crazy, so everything's gonna cost us more to replace any part of it. So we have to do something.
What's the percent of increase? I can figure it out real quick. But does that keep up with the inflation rate right now? Lori, did anybody do that math, or Kelly, have you done that math?
Yeah, it does.
It certainly isn't going to keep up with the current inflation rate that we've seen over the past 6 to 8 months.
You should have got your ballot in the mail.
But I think it would be foolish not to go ahead with the proposed new rate. Hopefully, inflation isn't going to continue at the rate that it has. We do have the November elections coming, which may cause some changes in policy across the Fed, hopefully. But I think if we're not keeping up with inflation now and we do nothing, then we certainly are gonna fall even farther behind
No,
than the
that's-
inflation rate.
I get it, and that's kind of where I'm at also. I look at the costs that we're paying for some of this stuff now in comparison to what it was. And that's my concern, because if we have anything catastrophic happen, we're not gonna have any money to fix it at that point in time either. So, Commissioner Lindsay?
I move we increase the ETA receipts from $1.40 to $1.97.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to increase the ETA receipts from $1.40 to $1.97. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so, there you go. Now, what do we need to do with our attorneys together collectively to make sure this happens as quickly as possible through the process?
Yeah, Commission, I'm gonna go back right now and get with our city attorney and make this happen. I mean, somehow or another, we're not making a connection here. So I'll go back, make sure that gets done, figure out what we need to do with the county attorney, if at all. Is my understanding before that there's kind of a conflict, but we'll get some clarity on that and make some decisions. So we'll, as a team, meet right after this and get some clarity on that, and we'll informally reach out and let you know where we're at on that.
Okay. So
And that-
we'll,
That's not a conflict involving us, right, Mr. Sanders?
No,
Okay, okay.
no.
Okay, gotcha.
The conflict is seemingly from our former attorney saying, you know, the conflict seems to be this, the root cause of that is Revcore. And, you know, them saying, well, you know, we possess it, the city does, but the E911 purchased it, and you see what I'm saying? They're doing what they can to throw a little confusion in there, it seems to me. So, no, it's nothing to do with our governments, it's everything to do with that, and we gotta.
It's them in non-performance is all it is.
And can I just say, I know there's that confusion about who signed off on the equipment or who didn't. The part that the city manager, that contract, it was my understanding that that just allowed Revcore, and I didn't read the whole contract, but that was supposed to just allow Revcore into our building to make sure they had the insurances, all those requirements of a contractor making changes to a city building. The RFP was through the authority board, so I'm not sure how that all got confused, but apparently it did.
well, we'll let the attorneys hash that out, because now they're
Yeah.
way out of my, we just need to make sure that you guys get together to get this thing hashed out and handled. So you have that approval done. We'll come back next week. We'll have that reviewed, and then we'll discuss the next two items, and we'll move forward on that. Okay? All right?
Thank you for your
Thank you,
time. I
guys.
know you're anxious, but we're gonna cover all the bases.
We're on board with
Yeah.
that, absolutely.
Hope for the
And
best, and we're gonna plan for the worst.
that's all you can do. Hold on.
Thank you all. Yep. Okay, there is nothing else to come before us. Today is the E911 board, so gentlemen,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the E911 board meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.